I've been having a lot of premonitions lately.
Oh my God, yes.
I don't like, and the funny thing about it is it happened like 2 weeks before, like 2 weeks in April, like the last 2 weeks of April. And then I decided to fast. So I've been fat today was day 4. So I've been fasting for the last 4 days. But like I've just been having dreams, premonitions. The other day I stayed up and read the book of Moses because during a download I had like Egyptians and all this other extra stuff. And I'm like, where is this coming from?
Hmm.
And so it got me on the story of Moses in the Bible. And I wasn't like a heavy Bible reader or anything like that. But I was just like, oh, this story is interesting. And I realized, wait a minute, what are the spirits trying to say? Like tying the story of Moses where he's helping let the people go, right?
Hmm.
And I realized, like, wait a minute, I'm being used. Like most of us are being used to help enlighten and heal other people that don't have that sense of awareness for
Yeah.
themselves, right?
Yeah.
But then also the way that uh the specific way that I read from the person that like wrote like the synopsis and everything, they're basically saying like at one point Moses didn't have the confidence or the belief that if God told him to do something, just to do it, right? Or do you have enough confidence to go after the thing that I want you to go after because I chose you for a reason? And I kind of just tied that to like my life and I was just like, I've been chosen for a reason. Like all these gifts that I've been given, things that I'm passionate about, there's a reason why I'm passionate about these things. So if I've been given it, I need to use it. And I need to use it in the right way as opposed to, I wouldn't be given it if it wasn't for no reason, right? So it was just a lot of correlation, which I thought was kind of cool. So to
Yeah.
be the closest I get to the Bible.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. And, you know, I think it's less about you're being used and more like you're a conduit.
Yes, yes.
And so if you're a conduit, what it amounts to is how useful can you be? Well, it's
Mm-hmm.
really about how useful do you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're developing these psychic skills or you're honing these skills that you have, or and honing could just be, practicing it, can be using it. Um, you are becoming a better tool for God to work through, or spirit, however you want to perceive it.
Mm.
And so it is it feels selfish sometimes to pursue those things, but in truth, it's the most selfless thing that you can do.
Yes, exactly.
So it's, something to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's uncomfortable sometimes when you're psychic. Like I know me and Madison talked a little bit about this because it's like I feel that the way that I receive psychic information is very similar to how she receives psychic information. And sometimes we know things about people that we may not even be super close to, but spirit is like somehow let them know, right? They're not going to tell us how to say it. I think that's our part, but they'll deliver the message of like, this person needs to know this one thing. And what happens is, sometimes they'll be like, no, that's not true because they either haven't dealt with it or they don't want to be exposed, or they get mad at you, right? They'll kind of like lash out because you're showing them something that they obviously have to deal with that they're probably like avoiding. And
Right.
for me, it's like I really want to be kind to everyone. My goal is like I always want to make people feel good, but it's kind of like spirits like you're not here to make people feel good. You're here to speak your damn truth. And you're just like, but I want people to like me too.
Right. I literally suffered with that. And because I'm like, I'm such a sweetheart. But then they're like, we didn't give this to
Don't care
you
about
just to
that.
play nice.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's really rough because like my ancestors are really, really strict on me. Like when I don't want to like maybe like there's something that's bothering me and I have to tell that person like something like they're coming off crazy or they're disrespecting me or like and I'm like I don't want to say anything and they're like you need to say something or we will. You're
No,
like,
literally. You don't want to. We're not meant to tiptoe around things. So like that's just not our thing. You can't. Everybody else, they can have that courtesy, but
They
we
get
just
away
don't
with
get
it.
it. Yeah, they get away with it. We no, we don't.
I would just point out that there's a difference between keeping your boundaries and listening to ancestors or saying things that are on your behalf versus simply going up to somebody that you don't know or that you barely know and laying out some message for them that you feel compelled to lay out.
Oh yeah.
I think there's always a room for making sure that somebody at least wants to hear what you have to say, right? That
Mhm.
it's not our job to be like blatant and forceful with what messages or whatever feelings that we have about that person, what has come to us. But it is that, you know, get comfortable with being uncomfortable saying, hey, I feel compelled to tell this to you. Would you like to receive it? You know?
Right.
And then, yeah, when it comes to yourself and ancestors saying, hey, you know, you need to stand up for yourself, that's a whole different story, right?
Hmm.
Um, and, you know, I was having a conversation with somebody earlier today about this very thing about hearing messages or ancestral messages or whatever. And, you know, to me, I think sometimes I try to find what the truest true is. And I'm not saying that it's not ancestors or it's not aliens or it's not spirits or ghosts or whatever. Sometimes I feel like that's a container to use for whatever level we are at that we can interpret.
Hmm.
In other words, we need to believe that it's ancestors because then we have an external source that doesn't question the information that is being downloaded, right? So if we tell ourselves it's ancestors, it's a lot more like we're having a conversation with somebody that we know, or that we're getting this information from something in our field rather than it simply being us connecting to source directly, and that we are simply a conscious being that is connecting to the super consciousness of the universe, and we're downloading that information. um, it's just something to ponder upon, you know, in how you relate to your psychic skills or your psychic gifts or whatever information that you're getting, right? That it you are always connected to what they call the Akashic records. Do y'all know what the Akashic records is? Have y'all heard that term before?
We call it something different. The
Sure.
Akashic record.
Akashic records.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you call it. Essentially, it's the conglomeration of all the consciousness on this particular
Yeah.
planet. But there are Akashic records for all systems, for all planets, for the totality of existence. But don't worry about that so much. We would more worry about, let's connect to Earth first. Let's connect to our celestial body of information before we. But it is possible, though. Just know that it is possible. That you are connected to everything. You are a direct connection to source, and so there doesn't always need to be a differentiation of how you're getting the information. And but to that same degree, I would say that you, as the person delivering the message, may find it useful to utilize that lingo of an ancestor, or I got this from a guide from you, individual, that I need to convey this message to. I feel like
Hmm.
this is coming from your mother's lineage or your ancestors or whatever.
Hmm.
And they may find it more palatable hearing a message like that versus it simply coming from you. And you may already be doing this. I'm just kind of riffing here, my thoughts as they come up.
Yeah, I think in time we also learn to refine and differentiate, really discern where it's coming from. And
Sure.
it takes time, because I know initially when I woke up to like, oh wait, these things that I know are not just opinions I'm having, it's information. um I started to learn like about the Akashic records and how like that's in our subconscious and in our DNA, and
Mhm.
that pulls from a certain place, as well as what information is coming from my higher self, as well as what information is coming from another person. Because if you're sensitive and somebody's sending you information, it's kind of like the psychic attack. That's one avenue. And then if you're just grabbing it from the collective consciousness, that's another avenue. So that
100%.
takes a lot of time.
Right. And similarly with premonitions, I would say, Madison, you mentioned premonitions. I think a lot of that is really a combination of what you're talking about, Lily, meaning you're tapping into the frequency of somebody and you are kind of reverberating that off of the super consciousness of God, per se.
Hmm.
And God is, in a sense, a supercomputer that can calculate all the variables and see the trajectory of where someone is going. And so you're picking up the highlights. You're not picking up, more than likely, if you get a premonition about somebody, you're not, having a premonition that they're going to go buy a bag of spinach from Kroger later. You pick up the major impactful things because those have the most energetic charge to them.
Hmm.
They're like a spike on like if you look at a sound recording, right? It has different oscillation peaks. So that's like a peak in their life if it's like a car accident or something they need to watch out for or whatever. And so in a sense, you are, again, you're doing a combination of tapping into a vibration of somebody and tapping into source to kind of reveal that information. But it happens so quickly. I'm just kind of describing the process of what's going
Hmm.
on for a, hopefully another level of understanding that will unravel how you work with your gifts that you have. Because the more that we know about it or reflect on what it is that we're doing, the better results that we have. Because again, it's you learn to refine your process, as I'm sure you both have done over your lifetime for whatever level of gift that you have, right? That
Hmm.
it didn't just, maybe it started off pretty strong in one particular arena, but as you developed or practiced or read for people, you learn things, right? It's like you don't, like when you're reading cards, Madison, and I know Lily, you too, it's not just that you're reading the cards, it's that you're tapping into the individual. You're tapping into their vibration and not just reading what the interpretation of a book is saying the card is. You're seeing the card and you know what it stands for, but then you kind of correlate it to whatever vibration this person is holding, and you're kind of refracting that against the reading of the card, so that you're dialing it more in rather than it just being, you just read a book and all the cards apply to everybody all the time.
Yeah, I think that was why it was so hard for me to even like read tarot to begin with. Because like when I first started, like I could pull out the cards, but I would start reading before I even deal out a card. Or the reading would be done before I'm like, do you have any specific questions? Like,
Yeah.
like I'll give the full and I think that's why like I had such a hard time because I'm just like, I can't go based off of what this book says about this specific tarot card and this book says that, and like because they're all different.
Yeah.
They kind of always still have that same thing, but like you got different variations. And I'm just like, it's really just about how you interpret. And, if you're interpreting one truthfully from what's being given to you, and then the energy that you're pulling off, whoever you're pulling off of, and, your intentions are in the right, in the right mindset. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And truth be told, you probably don't need the cards. um Sometimes it's good to have them, as far as like some people need some showmanship.
Yeah. Yeah.
and that helps break down the barrier between you and the individual, so that their guard is down. Because if their guard is up, if you just, again, like we talked at the beginning, if you just have a message and you're just like, you don't have a relationship with this person, or whatever else have you, and you just are like, hey, I need to talk to you because I have a message, their guard is going to be up and they're not going to receive it, and it may not even come through as clearly as it could potentially come through, simply because that happens. But in the case of like doing a reading, that's like it sets the stage so that your energies are open,
Right.
and that they are allowing you access to their panel, to their frequency. And when you do that, definitely, as I'm sure you both know, it increases the accuracy, it increases the reading, and everything happens more fluidically because you're both in a giving and a receiving state.
Oh my gosh, yes. I talk about this all the time, like the openness of somebody that you're potentially about to read. Like we're working together.
Yeah,
This is we're all here together. I need you to work with me because I don't know everything. I literally say I'm the messenger. All I got
right.
is a message, and all I'm supposed to say is whatever this message is, and however it makes sense, however it makes sense. Because half
Yeah.
the time I don't remember. I don't remember. I'm like, and then I'll get people that come back and they're like, remember what you said? And I'm like, no, explain. Explain.
Yeah, you probably kind of black out a little bit as you're talking, and just reading
Yeah.
through.
It's a whole journey. It's really fun to experience, but it
Yeah.
definitely is it's a whole journey for sure.
Yeah, you kind of go blank a little bit. It feels very clear, and you're just transposing what's going through, but it's almost like there's no thought occurring. It's just like,
Yeah, definitely. It's like I'm literally like I'll come over my words. Like my tongue will just like it'll just want to like talk miles a minute and I don't know how to like catch up at some
yeah, well,
points. I don't know, Lily, if you experienced that.
Oh yeah.
yeah, the information is coming through so much faster than what our physical body is capable of regurgitating out to anybody.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing to be able to do. So I'm glad I have it.
Yeah, well, it happens at the speed of light, essentially.
Hmm.
I mean, it's that fast. It's like a quantum entanglement is occurring, essentially. So it happens just almost like instantaneous.
Yeah. I'm
And
glad that you kind of dissected it that way too, because I've never heard of it that way, just like we're having a because like when you're so used to doing something, you're not thinking about, okay, these are all the details and this is where it's stemming from and this is the connection that I'm having. So that's a great outlook, like just me being able to energy from the actual person itself and then energy from the actual world because you connect with the world, right? So
yeah,
I like the way that you phrased it. That was cool. That was interesting just to go into just a little bit.
well, thank you.
Sometimes I tell people, I think Alex has experienced this when I get like a lot of information about something. It's hard for me because it comes in so fast, like what you said, Madison, that sometimes I forget because it's there 1 second and I have this clear picture and it's only going to stay there for a little bit. And as I try to explain it, it's gone. And then I'm like, oh my God, how do I interpret this? And that's usually how I know things about people. It just comes, I get a picture, like it's almost like claircognizance where I just know something, but it's
Yeah.
at once I know the background, the why, and where that person's going with that. And like with cards, why I think it's so important to include your intuition, to Alex's point, is that I was reading for somebody one time and from their energy alone and the energy, so I got the lover's card. And the lover's card can mean relationship, commitment, like something really positive, like unity, right? But the energy that I was getting from that, from him and the woman that he was kind of entangled with was, yeah, you guys are gonna be together because they were like on a talking stage, but this is very toxic. Like this is not for your
Mm,
highest, right? So the card is right that eventually this is gonna turn into something. But really what I had to say, what I wanted to say was And I think I told him was, yeah, you have the lovers, but be very careful with red flags and like how you guys interact, because I don't necessarily know if you guys are going to be healthy together. And that person's like, yeah, but that's the lover's card. I'm like, I understand that. Right. But it's like,
Oh,
tell you that I'm picking up, this is not my piece of energy, that I'm picking up something different that the cards can't possibly explain. That's just the guide, right? But your energy and your situation is very different. And so in part, that's why I stopped doing tarot, because people would get too wrapped up in the
mm,
card. And really the most important piece was like the energy of how that card applies to you specifically. And that's the part that I could give. And it's easy for people to be like, oh, that's just her opinion. And sure enough, they got together and then they were fighting like cats and dogs and broke up every other 2 weeks. And I was like, I freaking knew it.
I love that you even just brought up that story because, like, me and you have talked about this, and I'm just like, everybody uses cards. And I'm just like, I can literally scribe and I have everything I need.
That's beautiful.
That's literally it. And
I
I
think you
mean,
should, quite
That's
yeah,
honestly.
I love it. It's words, pictures, I get it all. And I'm like, tarot's like secondhand for me. It's like,
I,
eh.
it, I would say that the tarot is holding you back, quite honestly.
I
Mm,
think so too, Madison. I got the same, I have to kind of just say that I got the same impression whenever I didn't even get it now. I got it whenever I remembered how your reading was with me, the last 2 readings, and then when the comment about tarot was made, I think Alex said it, I instantly was like, she doesn't need them. So I just
mm,
wanted to share that with you because Alex just said it and I was like, ah, there's confirmation. You know,
thank you.
sorry, Alex, go
Thank
ahead.
you.
No, I mean, I think if you have other ways and means that you prefer, like you said, you like scribing or whatever it is, maybe like just drawing scribble and you get info from the scribble, or you could do, I mean, you don't have to do anything, truthfully. Uh,
Right.
I think your energy is enough that people will like gravitate towards getting readings from you regardless. Um, but again, there is something about the showmanship element that people like. And so
Hmm.
you might want to still find something to incorporate into your process, whether that's, incense or just setting the stage with crystals, or even getting them to hold stones or hold items and shake them up and throw them on something. Uh,
So actually, so interesting that you brought that up. This lady I used to work for, we were in her home and she had brought in these like very retro cameras and like my eyes just I couldn't concentrate. It just kept going back to the cameras, kept going back to the cameras. I'm just like, what is up with these cameras? Like, leave me alone. And then I was just like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you have any like reservance or like anything tied to these cameras over here? Do they symbolize anything to you? Did they belong to somebody's particularly grandparent? And she was like, yeah, they belong to my grandfather. And I was like, well, if you don't, well, she already knew like what my gifts were. So I was just like, well, if you don't mind, he has a message because you brought them into the space, meaning that he knows that, you're connected with him in that way. And ended up just I held the cameras and just went full throttle. Never
yeah.
met this man in my life. Like, so even in that sense, like getting items or
So
even just like
yeah.
scribing. Yeah.
So that's called, if you don't know, that's psychometry.
Psychometry.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Y'all giving me
psychometry,
words.
that would probably be a really good avenue for you since you already tapped into doing that. So what you can get information off of any object, but really jewelry objects are going to be probably the ones that retain the most data, um, or anything metal that somebody wears. Um,
Mm.
it's kind of like a vinyl record in a sense, items.
Hmm.
They have a sense of like things being recorded on them. So energies get recorded into like the metals essentially. And
Yeah.
it's similar to what you would do for tapping into somebody, right? Like exactly what you're doing when you connect with somebody is similar to what you're doing with the jewelry or the item that you're kind of holding. And again, it sounds like you already did that and have a connection to that particular task. So that might be an avenue you could try as well instead of cards.
Yeah, I didn't even think
I
about that.
was great.
What'd you say? You cut out a
Vinyl,
little bit. The
the
vinyl?
that analogy, amazing. I love that.
Yeah, I like that. Energy recorded in the metals. That's cool. Hmm.
Yeah, well, it's similar to what, so to give you just again to solidify that idea, and maybe I don't need to, but I'm going to. So what happens in homes, right? What happens in rooms? Energy that is exchanged in these places gets imbued into the walls, it gets imbued into the floors, it gets imbued into the couches, into all the environment, right? So a lot of times what happens, let's say like a couple is fighting a lot in a home, a lot of times they'll find that it happens in the same room, in the same area. And so what's happened is that they're getting re-triggered by the energy in that environment each time they enter it. And what's happening is it's changing their biochemistry, because what are we? Well, we are electrical receptive beings. We pick up on energy and it impacts us whether we realize it or not. That's
Yeah.
how you know how I know that everybody has a level of that particular psychic skill, is because every single person, no matter whether they practice this or not, has said, "Oh, this place has weird vibes. This place has bad vibes. That guy had bad vibes."
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck does that mean? You don't believe in psychic energy, you don't believe in receiving information, right? The
Yep.
only difference is that those of us that tap into that have taken a little bit extra time to practice with it. We've started to learn a different type of language, the language of emotion. And so you, as humans, we've evolved. That is a skill that we kind of lost over time as we've developed technology. But it's a very primitive skill that helped us in a part of our human existence where we didn't know whether someone was after us or around the corner or going to steal from us,
Our
or
instincts, yeah.
right. We don't have big sharp claws or teeth or whatever to fight with. We have to use all these other skills in order to ascertain the situation. So within that is a language. And so if you can learn to interpret that language or start interpreting, which both of you already have a sense of. Again, this is just laying out some more foundational pieces so that you maybe hopefully use that and build your own internal language even more so, or you have a recognition of what it is. So, again, when you meet with somebody and you feel a vibe from them, you pick up good vibe, or they're into you, or they're into, and but there's different levels of they're into you, right? So that's the difference between somebody that is just your everyday woman being approached by a man, right? And the woman knows intuitively, oh, this guy's trying to get in my pants, or this guy is interested in me, or this guy has a bad intention for me, right? And I say women because women have a more acute sense of this skill, whereas men, it takes us a lot more effort and work to develop it. But let's just use the example of somebody's into you. Well, they could be into you, but they could be into you for friendship. They could be into you for love. They could be into you for business. They could be into you because you have a contact that they want to get in touch with, right? So that's the difference between, somebody who is just a regular human or a little bit psychic, in between somebody that can differentiate those different vibrations and decode them and then, translate them.
So can I share a story real quick about that? Because it's like so wild.
Of course.
And I think I've shared this with you, Alex, but I remember that there was a coworker he's my age, and like he joined the team, and from the first day that I spent at least 20 minutes with him, I was like, there's something wrong with him. Like that was my first, like, there's something off with this guy. And he was super nice and everyone loved him. He even like created a tool that was saving us, I think it was $2 million a year when drilling a well, because it was gathering information faster, so it was saving us time. And he got a patent for it, and he was like awarded this chairman award. Well, fast forward like 2 years later, he got drunk, high, was on cocaine, mushrooms, and acid, went into a gas station. Like all these things were in his system. He's like 30. And somebody must have said something wrong. He like went up to the icy machine, picked it up, and threw it across the fucking gas station. Obviously got arrested. And like 2 days later, my boss texted me this I think it was like ABC Houston News with his fucking mugshot. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I was like, what happened? And they're like, yeah, homeboy lost his shit. He got fired, and the Chevron press charges was like a whole thing. And I was like, I fucking knew it. There was something off about old boy.
Wow.
Never forget that. And I never trusted him. I was like, and again, everyone liked him. He was smart. He did all the things right. But I was like, nope, I'm gonna keep my distance from him. And there was even a coworker of mine, Janet, that was like dating him or talking to him. And then she told me that like he was into like open relationships, and was like, hey, come hang out with my girlfriend. And she's like, you have a girlfriend? And then when she told me that, I was like, oh my God, Janet, like this guy, like between that and then like him throwing icy machines. But I had that feeling way before all that happened. So that's an example of that. And I thought it was crazy.
Hell yeah.
That's so interesting. Because I've had moments like that too, where like even when I was in school, I'm the only one where I'm like, y'all like a little too much, some off.
People are
Yeah.
like,
Then
but
I
why?
tell,
You don't know her.
oh yeah, you don't know her. And then they're like, Mom, Maddie, you're the hater in the group. And I'm like, nah, sis, like it's something up. Like I know now,
Same.
but y'all gonna know later. I don't know what it is, but I
Yep.
just know.
Yeah.
And it's not something like you're trying to boast about. It's just like, no, just like something's off and I want to protect myself because I have no idea what it is. I just want to protect myself.
Dude, I have told
As you
Alex that
should.
about people a few times. I'm like, look, I don't know what it is, but I'm just gonna keep a distance because I just feel like shit gonna pop off and I want nothing to do with it.
No, literally. Literally. I've been in that space where like everybody's like cool with that one person and I'm like, no. And then all of a sudden they come back, girl, let me tell you what happened. I'm like, what I tell you? What I tell you? Oh yeah, I'm gonna stay away. I was like, don't be bringing none of that juju over here because I told you I don't want none of it. Cleanse yourself before you come over here and come talk to me because we're not dealing with it. We're not dealing with it.
Yeah. Well, know that it's a real thing. You know, you're not making it up. And you know, it's know also that it if you know how to receive that information, well, guess what? You also know how to do the reverse. You know how to project that information as well. So that's where like per se like manifestation or healing or you know looking to help somebody out or whatever. Obviously we err on the side of positivity versus negativity, but that is how negative things are done as well. It's most negative things, most negative psychic things happen by people that are not psychically trained. And so the efficacy of that is diminished because they don't have this type of technology. But that is, it still happens. And that's where, you know, because a lot of the negative psychic things come from people that have been scorned, people that have been wronged, people that dwell on things that have happened to them and are not physically seeking revenge, but are willing ill will for you or for
Yeah.
something. Willing, they're just thinking on you and they're wishing that you would die, wishing that something bad would happen to you, wishing you don't get the job, wishing whatever. And So you don't necessarily have to be trained, but that does have an impact. That is somebody putting a vibe out there. And so that's why we do like the pyramid or cord cutting or those types of things. That's partly why we do that, is because you don't really always know who your haters are.
Yep.
Right. And very likely each one of us probably has people that maybe we don't have haters, but like haters, but we probably have people that are like, I don't care for that person or whatever.
They watch very profusely.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
take notes.
yes, ma'am.
And it's not, and I know Lily, we had talked about this before, but it's not necessarily up to us to return the favor, so to speak, but it is
That
up to
part.
us to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
And if within our protection it gets bounced back at them, well, that's their own fault, kind of a thing. It's kind of like throwing a ball right up against the wall, and it bounces back and hits you in the face. Well, are you gonna is the wall the problem? No, you're the problem, because you're the one throwing all that hate. You're throwing that anger out, and it gets
Yeah.
back to you. But again, back to just positive things, and even just in your own self, right? And I've talked about this. I one of the reasons why in the meditation that I guide or recommend people do, when we come to the heart chakra, I say to smile and invoke the feeling of love and joy, positive energy. I often say, think about, use the thought of like a grandmother's hug, or somebody's that you love, that you've felt in your life, that maybe loved you unconditionally, and feel their hug. Like really recreate that in your mind and invoke that feeling and let it unfurl through you. And that can be really healing and nourishing to your soul. That can be really healing and nourishing to the cellular structure of your body as well. Because you're essentially reverberating through you that positive love energy, that positive vibe. And you're telling the cells in your body to heal, to be in love, to grow in a positive way. And your body will reciprocate that, and you can cascade that feeling over and over again till basically you feel like you're rolling, or you feel like you're on drugs. Like you can truly recreate those emotions to where you're just like in what they call like a samadhi state, where you're just almost orgasmic. And it comes from knowing that technology, but also being in a state of nothingness, being in a state of surrender. You're in absolute surrender, yet you have an intention, and you're letting that vibe flow through your entire being. And that is a place of power. That is a place of like, nothing can touch me. That is a place of being within God consciousness. And so if you're ever faced with dark entities or dark beings, know that you can draw that up at a moment's notice, that you're always connected to God consciousness. And when you want, you drop in and you go to that stillness, and
Hell yeah.
No, literally.
you are powerful.
Literally.
You are powerful, and your energy is that of divine consciousness. So don't ever forget that. And but again, the more that you tap in and practice with this kind of stuff, the better conduit you are. The better God can move through you and, per se, utilize you in a battle, a spiritual battle. Yeah.
That was so good.
That was
really
so good.
see that one is the one, Alex, that you want to make that real. I know we talk about making reels. That one, when we get off, just do it real quick.
Real quick.
Real quick.
Real quick. Just do it.
Yeah. It's like, it's the way you put the words together and it makes sense. That only a certain few will understand exactly what you mean. Like, even that's a language. Like, I'm understanding exactly what he's like. I feel exactly
That's
what
how
you mean.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Well, I'm glad
Yeah.
y'all feel it, because I felt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to hop off because I gotta get up real early. I hate that I have to leave. I stayed longer than I was going to. But yeah, I have to get up at 5, so I need to go
Well,
to
just
bed.
stay for the last 10 minutes and
Okay, yeah,
then
that works. I
you're
took
already
my
here.
yeah. The conversation is so good. I'm like, why?
It's cool.
Yeah, you're
No,
already here. Yeah, you're not gonna fall asleep
uh,
right away.
maybe yeah. Put in your good intentions. I struggle to fall asleep when I have shit going on, so hopefully,
Mm.
yeah. It's kind of why I want to work from home and stuff, but soon,
Yeah,
soon.
it's coming.
It's coming. Yeah, I kind of got the message, like I am applying to some jobs, but I got the message of like, what was it? It was like, okay, you know what you have to do, you know what you want now. Just don't be careless and reckless with your moves. Be smart about it, but you can have it. I almost got the message of like, it's yours, you can have it, but just be selective and be patient. Because one of my biggest lessons is patience. And Alex is really good about like being like, yeah, that sounds great, but like let's think about all these important things first. And I tend to just want to do it and like be like, fuck those things. I'll figure it out. And then I'm there and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Well, don't let me hold you back either.
Oh no, I won't. Like if it's something I gotta do, I'll do it. But what you say resonates in terms of like it makes sense, right? Like
It's a
don't
great balance to have.
yes, yes, for sure. I
Yeah.
agree.
Well, that's what we're all trying to find is a little bit of balance, right? And it's important to remember that you always keep one foot in the spiritual world and one foot in this world. That
Mm.
Yes,
we're not here to extract ourselves from society. There's a
exactly.
reason why we were per se born here or that we live here or whatever, and that we incarnated into this particular lifetime, into this particular area, and that it's we have to keep that balance. And again, if you extract yourself too fully into the spiritual world, you're going to suffer. And if
Yes.
you go too fully into the matrix world, you're going to suffer,
Hmm.
especially being a spiritual being, because you'll always know what is missing. And so that's why it's important to do your best to find ways to keep your spirituality a practice in your life, hopefully every day. Um, and, you know, just know that I say that and I struggle with doing it every day myself. But I have to say it because I know there's truth in it. And even if I don't necessarily do it as best as I could, hopefully other people will strive to do that, at least strive to do the best that they could possibly do, right? But it's unfortunate because when you don't practice or when you don't engage in your spirituality, it slips away from you so slowly and gradually that all of a sudden you lose sense that you want to connect spiritually, or you just feel this emptiness within you and you don't know where it's coming from. And usually it's like, oh shit, I haven't meditated in a month.
So true.
Ooh, yeah. That's
And
scary for
then
me.
know that know that you can survive the ups and downs, because you will have spiritual ups and downs, as long as you have the resiliency to always come back, to find something that will inspire you. Because and that's why, again, this is why when I first started doing these sets of classes many years ago, why I started doing it was because I needed something to, one, I wanted to connect with other people because we don't like to be alone necessarily, right? Or I don't anyways. And generally speaking, spiritual people are lonely because we talk about this kind of stuff and people are like, what the hell is wrong with you? Or
Right.
I don't know. It happens in the beginning, but once you get going, I don't know. I think you can convince pretty much anybody. But
No, wait, you can convince anyone. You're really good at that, but I can't.
possibly, probably,
At that.
probably. But
I'll-
it's And I would say to that end, more people are interested in meditation and spiritual stuff than they let on.
Oh, yes.
It's
You'll find out real quick.
yeah,
Once you like, once you do something where they're like, no way, no way. And they ask you like 50 million questions after, and you just like, oh my gosh, I done woke somebody up. Like, 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 dang, now I'm the person that gotta help them out and everything. But it's amazing to see it that way and to be the person to be able to do something like that. So it's funny though. It's really funny.
Well, and
yeah,
part of that, Madison, part of that is the reason that we can't completely extract ourselves from the matrix. And I'm kind of speaking to myself as I say this because that has been confirmed that we kind of have to be around normies because we are a light of influence. It's kind of part of our mission and our service. And
Yeah.
so I can't, I've asked myself, if I wasn't at my job, how many opportunities would I have missed to have first connected with people on a deeper level and hear them say, I've always like had psychic experiences, or hey, can you teach me about crystals, or hey, how do I sage my house? And just that alone is like, damn, I've touched a lot of lives with my spirituality in a very like matrixy normie job, and people need that because it's they don't have access to it.
Oh my gosh. Alex, I'm gonna need this later. So really quick, because I know you have to leave, but I did a business proposal to my last job for an enrichment, and it's called Arts and Affirmations, and it's basically putting art and meditation. So whether it be the actual sit down meditation or through art, reading, writing,
yeah.
and basically, I'm gonna have where the kids have journals. So they come in to the course every day, and you spend the first and last 15 minutes of journaling your thoughts, like how was your day, or how do you feel today, all that, right? But then throughout the course, we're doing things either art related, or in their everyday lives, like how we can regulate our emotions throughout the day and how to respond to certain things. And you saying that, like when I brought it up to them, the adults, they were like, I would take that class. And so it's just like, I'm like, okay. And so like this week, we've been trying to get like paperwork and everything together. And one part of me was like, okay, do I go back into society and like do this again? Or then it's just like I've been happy in like this little cocoon that I like, but then it's like, wait a minute. I'm not supposed to just be in this cocoon all the time. That's not how my mission is supposed to work. So you just saying that it's just like confirming like everything right now.
Yeah,
Mm.
because you are a leader in this space, and so you have to find the thing that you're passionate about where you can do the work of spirituality maybe in a normal setting to inspire others. And
Mm.
like my example is I knew that I wanted to be a life coach and I wanted to teach people about psychic stuff. I wanted to work with sensitive children, but I knew, well, I can't just come out into the world like that because all the normies are going to be like, she's crazy. So I decided to become a licensed therapist and go undercover as I'm a therapist, but slip in the little bits and pieces with research, because we have research to support a lot of quantum physics, so that people are like, oh, okay, psychology is helping me, but also I'm a spiritual being, and kind of combine the two. So it's
Mm.
almost like I'm tricking them, like, yeah, you think I'm
Yes, I'm a teacher, but they don't know how high I can go. But we just gonna leave it right here.
yeah. So you got to find your thing. You got to find your way.
Thanks for that. Okay, all right, we're doing it. I love that.
Hell yeah. Y'all are awesome.
So are you.
Thanks. So are you, man. You're great.
Thanks.
You need to do public speaking.
I know. I've been telling him, I'm like, you are
Yeah,
so.
where's your seminar? Where's your panel? I mean, this is the start. This is the start.
Yeah.
But I'm looking for a panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I see.
I can do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
he
see
loves
it.
to see. And like he'll be like, I don't really like making reels because they're too short. I'm like, that's a clue at what you're good at and what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to just do short things for people to view. You're meant to do something interactive. So classes are great, but like on a larger scale, I see you doing TED Talks. I see you, I don't know, teaching courses in person. I see you taking men's on hikes, like leadership classes for men and taking them on hikes. And like, I know Chris came up with that, thought it was fabulous. And like, I don't know, I just see you doing something a little more interactive.
Yes. I mean, I see it too. I'm here for it. I love
Oh
it.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
thanks, yo.
Because that's
Awesome.
what I want to do with the kids. Like literally doing something in public schooling. When have you heard of anybody other than a counselor coming
Yes.
into public schooling and taking all these tools and doing that? Nobody's doing that.
As
And I'm
long
like,
as you go undercover, like I said, and you kind of make it like sure it's spirituality, but you want to kind of label it as meditation because there's research on that.
that's what
That's
I did.
yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. And because the school system is very like strict with what you can and can't teach them, so you got to be really clever about kind of going under a disguise.
Yes. Maybe I'm gonna send you the proposal. That
Yes,
way, if you got at your earliest convenience, if you got any tips, let me know.
I'll put my email in the chat. You can send it to me.
So
Perfect.
you could also just as a point of reference, that there's the meditation for kids, but then there's probably going to be a part of you that is able to connect with certain students that already have gifts.
Mhm.
And what you can do with that, because a student may not be so keen to talk to you right away, is, kind of just color and draw with them and, get them to be like, oh, did you notice that? Or you noticed this thing? Or did you feel this? Or, and get them to kind of like describe it to you or draw it to you and talk
Yeah.
about it in a way that it's just like, oh yeah, imagination kind of a thing, or it's playful. And if you make it playful, they're going to be more apt to open up to you.
It's so crazy you say that because that's how it was when I was a site director. So I didn't realize that I was doing it in a like I know, but they don't know. But I'm the way I'm communicating you is at a level that you understand.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's amazing. Ah, yeah, that just makes me even more excited.
Hell yeah.